Hello and welcome to Cicerone Live. I'm Amy Hodkin and thanks for joining us for our March event where we're going to be celebrating and discussing the new Walking the Lake District Fells series, which are historically known as the Fellrangers, with author Mark Richards. And we're also going to be exploring sustainability in the Lake District with Gill Haigh, who is the Managing Director of Cumbria Tourism. Just so you know how the event works, I'm going to be talking to Mark and Gill for about half an hour about the Fellrangers and sustainability in the Lake District. And then I'm going to move on to asking them questions from you, the audience. So there's plenty of time to think of those and send them in to us while we're talking. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, you can write them in the comments. Or if you're watching on the Cicerone website, I think the best thing to do is to email live@cicerone.co.uk. My colleague Hannah is managing all of that behind the scenes, and we'll try and get through as many questions from you as we can. We've already had a few that have come in, so that's brilliant. And yeah, looking forward to finding out what you want to know. We're also offering a 25% discount on all of the new Walking the Lake District Fells books. So that's Borrowdale, Buttermere, Coniston, Keswick, Langdale, Mardale in the Far East, Patterdale and Wasdale. There's 8 in total. So yeah, 25% discount if you type in Fellranger 25 at the checkout on the Cicerone website. And there'll be a banner along the bottom throughout the event reminding you of that. Yeah, if you want to do that. We also run a new for old scheme here at Cicerone where you can trade in your old copy of a book for the newest edition, and that applies to any of the old Fellrangers for the new books, because you're about to find out the areas have changed slightly, so to make that easier, yeah, any of those old 8 books you can trade in for any of the new books. So yeah, hopefully that helps with how the event's going to run. Our guests tonight, so we've got Mark Richards, who is a countryman born and bred. The Lake District always figured large in Mark's aspirations, and after 14 years of dedicated research, living and working in Cumbria, the original Fellranger series were born. The series reflects his love of the magic of Fell country. He has also always had a fascination with pen and ink illustrations from his earlier years, which later in life brought him to a friendship with Alfred Wainwright and an overwhelming desire to make his own illustrated guides. Always busy writing and promoting the landscape of Cumbria on many fronts, Mark has written guides for Cicerone on Hadrian's Wall Path and Great Mountain Days in the Lake District, and now presents a regular podcast with a uniquely Cumbrian flavour, Country Stride. So that's Mark, who's the author of our Fellranger Walking in the Lakes in the Lake District Fells books. We're also joined tonight by Gill Haigh, who is the Managing Director at Cumbria Tourism, which is the county's official tourism destination management organisation. Cumbria's tourism sector is worth more than $3 billion to the local economy and supports more than 65,000 jobs. And Cumbria Tourism is the county's largest membership organisation, representing around 2,500 tourism businesses. Gill Haigh joined Cumbria Tourism in 2017 following her previous role as Director of Marketing and Recruitment at the University of Cumbria. During her 25 career in marketing and communications, she has gained substantial leadership experience across both private and public sectors, specifically in travel and tourism. And Gill's current job is a dream come true for her. For Gill, childhood family holidays, caravanning throughout the county, climbing hills and sailing on the lakes with her parents and brothers sowed the seeds for a lifelong affair with the county that she is now proud to share with others. So yeah, it's my great pleasure to welcome both Mark and Gill. And we're going to be speaking to Mark first about the Fellranger series to begin with. So there we go. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Andy. And hello, everybody else. Thank you for listening.
So we've got some slides to show. There we go. So to start off, so Mark, I know that working at Cicerone, a lot of people love the original Fellranger series, But for people who haven't come across the series before, could you explain the vision for the series and what they cover?
Right. Well, of course, this is the product of 20 years devoted research. Although the guidebooks, the new series, have emerged over the last 2 years, we have developed this work. I've certainly developed the work for over a long period of time. Originally, I was very much influenced by Wainwright, and so forth. I looked at it geographically as the mountain ranges, and that's where the word Fellranger derives. But now we've realized very naturally and sensibly that people walk on the fells and they approach from the valleys, and so their visitor and tourism perspective is as from the main valleys. So we've made the whole series, we've revitalized it, reinvigorated it, made it more pertinent to today and the new appetite for adventure, but sound advice. So it's all built around the valleys. The main ones there, like Borrowdale, Langdale, Buttermere, Coniston, Patterdale, Wasdale, you name it. People come to these areas and they recognize them. They're like the hallmarks of what the Lake District's all about. And so we have, as a team, I feel I'm part of a team with Cicerone, have brought a new vigor to this whole thing, but it's very much geared to introducing people to the liberty, a responsible liberty to the fells. So there we have 8 guidebooks, very pertinent. You drive into Keswick and you know where to go. So, in fact, if you come to Keswick, you immediately have got several volumes at your disposal, which is marvellous. But it certainly gives you scope to think much more with much more intelligence, give you the liberty to discover routes and not follow the crowd. And we've made a conscious effort to make them special.
So on the next slide, we've got the map showing the routes, not the routes, sorry, the areas. So these are the 8 new areas that you've been talking about. And that is one of the major changes from the previous edition. But what are the other main changes?
Well, of course, you see, and I remember I was talking to Richard Else recently, who did the films with Wainwright, and he complained to Wainwright. He said the fact that you've got the northwestern fells and the central fells separated, and yet if you come to Borrowdale, you come to Keswick and Derwentwater, the fells all around you are cohesively part of your walking environment and your opportunities. So that's what we've done. We brought the sense of centrality to the titles. So you come to the Borrowdale area, and of course, because of the nature of our 3D approach, this 360-degree perspective on each fell, it does mean that we have some fells are in 1 or 2 volumes, like Fell Pike is in Borrowdale, as it's in Wasdale, as it's in Langdale, because you can approach from these ways. But it's a natural harmony of fells around those centres. Some areas, of course, I've extended the southern fells right the way down to Black Combe, down the Duddon Valley, and Eskdale. You cross over Hardknot, come into Eskdale. The southern aspect of Eskdale belongs to the Coniston group of fells, and the northern aspect of the approaches to Burnmore Tar and School Fell and Upper Eskdale. That's in the Wasdale volume. So each one has a certain solid unity. And of course, the Lake District expanded east with beyond the A5, A6, whichever A is, A6, beyond, what was it called, the Leyland Clock. And it went down Westman and Borrowdale towards the Loon Gorge. And so we brought in 3 new fells there. But there are some areas have got their very defined fells. But when you're in that eastern Mardale area, the fells become far more lengthy. And they extend away towards Swindale and Gledall and so on. It's a different kind of area. But fundamentally, we've got them so that wherever you're coming, if you're going to Ullswater, Helvellyn is very much the enigmatic at heart and soul of the Ullswater scene. So that area, in fact, that volume, the Patterdale volume, is the same as we had it before, but now we have it focused from the way people arrive in the valley. If you want to enjoy the Helvellyn and get an introduction to it, you go into the Mardale volume and you get up onto Place Fell and you admire the whole scene before you. So you're sort of obliged to buy both volumes, but the volumes are so compact and easy to carry, you will naturally want to have the two anyway. So everything's compatible and harmonious to one another. So each volume plays into the neighbouring volume, but fundamentally it's where you want to explore.
And I think an important thing to point out is that if people are familiar with the series and have used the older books, these are a smaller size. They're the standard Cicerone guidebook size now, because I know that I spoke to Natalie, who was the in-house editor for these books, and really oversaw the whole process. And she said, I absolutely love the old books, but they just weren't practical for taking out and about, whereas these absolutely are. You know, you can put them in your pocket. Mark, I know you were out with one of them today.
Yeah, yes.
And, you know, increases that usability.
Oh, this is really strange. As an author who's written many guides over the years, when I do a book, it gets edited, it gets completed and published, and I naturally move on to the next book. My mind is, for that Wainwright, the difference between one volume and the next one is filling the pipe with more tobacco. But with me, I'm moving on. But this time, yesterday, I took the Mardale volume out and went to Arthur's Pike and Bonscale Pike, and I was amazed how efficient it was. I carry it, bring it out of my pocket just when I wanted, and I could pinpoint where I was. I know I've researched all the routes, but you come back. Actually, that Bonscale Pike, I haven't been there for 9 years, so a little bit of vagueness as to where you'll break off the ridge to go down to Howtown, but the guidebook gave me it exactly, and so that's very encouraging.
It's always nice, isn't it, when the work you've done pays off and is useful. So yeah,
I've never did it in the third person before, so that's great. It really, and it's really as much as okay, I did the research, put it together, the artwork, and so forth. But it's the refinement, the editorial refinements that have come into this. First with Lois Sparling, and then with Natalie Simpson. Excellent editing.
And what we can see here is this is an example of one of the spreads from the book and from the Borrowdale book, and put this together just to show you the audience kind of how the book looks inside, and to show the fell-friendly routes, which is one of the main additions to these new books. Is a fell-friendly route for each hill, which is the one that is least vulnerable to erosion or that is reinforced by Fix the Fells or something like that. I wondered, Mark, if you could tell us about the decision to include those and why it's important to you to include them.
We live in a different age. People, and the sheer number of people who have over the last 50 years ventured onto the fells have made a big impact. And I was very aware of this. Some fells, like dear little Armboth Fell, are almost forgotten gems that people are unaware of. But Thirlmere is a wonderful valley, so to go up it via the first route by Fisher Gill, it's a very simple route. And in fact, you don't need, almost any route could be described as a fell-friendly route on Armboth, but because of the nature of fell, it can cope with it, and it's the direct way up to it, so that's fine. Many fells are hugely popular and perhaps over popular in certain respects, and people tend to follow the herd and put enormous pressure on the infrastructure of the paths themselves, and have to be constantly maintained and improved just to keep them able to cope with the sheer volume. I can come up with innumerable examples, but if you people who go up Scaldfell, up Langdale Gill, a huge amount of effort has been put on that path, but it takes this real pounding. But you can break up and go up onto Ling Mel, and that is a wonderful way up to gain Ling Mel Col. It's peerless, as it were, by comparison. Although you look down Piers Gill, it is peerless as an alternative to going up the Hollostones Way, where everybody is. So it can take the pressure. So there are different places that can take more wear and tear, and I think it's lovely that I want this series to belong to every walker. It's not me or Cicerone; it's the walker that. And I want the walkers to feel that they can communicate with us and tell us what they feel is the current fell-friendly route for any one fell. And then we can all judge if we need to switch from one route to another. And it's this being light on the feet ability of this new Fellranger series to be responsive that I think is going to be so instrumental in serving the area in a very durable and healthy, sustainable way.
I think it's already doing that, though, isn't it, in a way, by offering so many routes for one or for each hill. You know, it is all the fells and all the routes, that's the tagline, you know, so that people will spread out quite naturally, I think.
Hopefully, yeah. And lots of people, yeah, lots of people don't think about taking a different route. And of course, the notion of all the routes is almost a strange idea, because once you get the feeling of the liberty that the guidebooks open, you actually can start fell wandering and discovering your own ways. And I remember there you've got the route, the first route doing a Barnboth going up by Fisher Gill. I remember Middlestead. I have a vivid memory of Middlestead's Gill being up on the fell there in a thunderstorm and racing down this side Middlestead's Gill, because of course when the weather strikes, knowing an efficient way down is as much of an importance as knowing the ways up.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, we can see here that if people have used the original Fellranger series, that some things haven't changed. You know, these books still contain all of your wonderful pen and ink drawings. We've still got the Harvey mapping, and yeah. So does it feel rewarding to repackage these for the needs of the current walker?
Oh, this is it's uplifting and stimulating. It's where I hoped it would be when I started the venture 20 odd years ago. That's when the seeds of this idea struck me. And of course, it goes back to the early 1970s when I used to walk with Wainwright. The sense that I said to him, I remember saying to him that we were birds of a feather. And he agreed with me because of our shared love of pen and ink drawing and walking on the fells. From two completely different backgrounds, two different aspirations. I was this pupil. But I think we now got to a point where we are community as a body of a team in Cicerone and myself are offering something very special, and it needs to be 3D. Just not everybody's able to cope with a map, but they certainly need to, because of course so many people now just go up with a smartphone and they haven't got the reference to make sensible decisions. And that's one of the ingredients of this book. You've got to know when to backtrack, like when I said about the thunderstorm. You've got to know when to go back and where to go back, and at what points, so that because the hills and the fells are a dynamic and quite fearful environment for many newbie walkers. People who get used to it learn about it. I've never had an accident in the fells. Lucky old me, and I'm touching wood even now. But that's only because I've learnt the caution of the fells. And this is one of the things I hope the series will teach people, how to be wise when they're there, make the right decisions.
Definitely. And I think, you know, there will be people who have never been to the Lake District before. And we're going to talk to Gill about, you know, what they can do and what visitors can do to be sustainable and that sort of thing. But I think for people so this is great for discovering, you know, if you're a new fell walker, it really provides you with all the tools you need. But I think as well as myself as a more experienced fell walker, having grown up in the Lake District, these books provide you with everything you need to, explore the same mountain in a different way and, rediscover different routes. So I think there really is something for everyone with these.
And of course, although only a few of the panoramas are visible in the guides because of lack of space, one has to realize that some volumes have got 30 odd fells in and other volumes have got 20 odd fells in. So to keep it all compact, a certain amount of detail has to go out. But they can get the detailed graphics of panoramic, of all the panoramic Captain Camp panoramas from every summit from the Cicerone website under Fellranger.
I've just had a note from Hannah saying, can I explain what the different coloured route lines are? So this ties into the fell-friendly routes. So the green is the fell-friendly one. That's right, isn't it, Mark? And then those are the other routes.
Yeah, well, there's the red route is a definite path underfoot, and the green one is invariably there's nothing there to identify. So that's why I was trying to be ultra simple in defining it like that. I think you never know. Down the line, we might get more subtle than that. But you are trying to get a simple message across about, is there a path under your feet or isn't there? So that was why I had red for a visible path and green, it's grass or nothing. But we might get more subtle as the months and years unfold and the new come out. And these guides will definitely evolve. And our old grandfather Mark will be smoking his pipe in the corner, admiring you, young generation, turning them into something completely more dynamic still, which will be wonderful. I'll admire you from afar.
I think it's an amazing process. Yeah.
Still out there. Goodness.
My kind of final question before we move to talking to Gill is that, so we know that people go out and bag Wainwrights, and you can also do that with the Fellrangers and get them signed off. And on the Cicerone website, we provide the kind of tick sheets for that. And there are actually a few more Fellrangers than there are Wainwrights. So if people have completed the Wainwrights and want, there's the tick list. If you have completed the Wainwrights, that is an option to keep going and, do those remaining Fellrangers. But for you, Mark, is it about ticking off the fells or is it about exploring the new routes up the same ones?
Well, yes, there are. I actually left off 5 Wainwright because I didn't feel they even warranted identifying. But there are 19 new, in effect, Fellrangers. But I've never climbed a Wainwright in my life, as it were. I've always the historic countryman's name for every fell that described it as either red pike or dollywagon pike, as it were. Those are the names that are enigmatic and most meaningful. And I think if people climb the Lakeland Fells, I think that's what they should be doing. The Lake District Fells are what it's all about. And so, in fact, the headline on that page in front of you, the Lake District Fells, is what we all should be doing in the future. AW has had a wonderful run, and he's in the history books like William Wordsworth, as it were. But we've now got to approach the outdoors in a different sort of way. But we want people. Lots of people. I met a couple of ladies yesterday who were saying they were so grateful for having the guidebooks that got them to places they didn't think of ever going to before. And ticking off lists enables them to do that. So I have no qualms about people doing that. And of course, although I've never climbed a particular style of fell, a Burkitt or whatever, I've done it the other way because I've been researching them in fine detail. So I've inevitably gone up every one and multiple ways up as well. So I bagged them by every possible conceivable and a few unconceivable ways as well. I've got some bad memories of going up completely the wrong way that never got into the guide. Anyway, it's been a wonderful process.
Well, it's, I suppose, just these last, well, the 8 new guidebooks rather. It has been a 4-year process, hasn't it, putting those together? And then, all your years before that doing the original series, and I imagine a lot of time in between, thinking and deciding what to do next. So yeah, it's a huge achievement.
I think it's a huge achievement for everybody. I'm very proud of what everybody's done. Lois Sparling, and I must accredit Tim Thornton, her partner, for coming up with the name Fell Friendly. I'd come up with the idea of it, and he just happened to say, "Well, they're fell friendly routes." I thought, "Bang on, we'll go for that." So thank you. I think so many people have contributed. There's been sub editors, proofreading like Liz Leemel. Excellent work that all plays into it, and it is an ongoing process. So I think we all should be proud of ourselves. And as long as I've got legs to walk, I will be updating this series with great vigor and enthusiasm. I love it to bits.
Well, yeah, thank you for sharing that with us, Mark. And it's lovely to be able to celebrate them with you. And I know from my time at Cicerone, seeing them, various books going through, and yeah, it just has been a really brilliant process to see. So yeah, thank you. We're going to move now to talking to Gill. So hello. Hi, Gill.
Hi.
So I wanted to talk to you about, obviously Mark's guidebooks provide you with everything you need to know for actually going up the fells. But I'd like to talk about, visitors coming to Cumbria and I suppose the wider impacts of tourism. So the Lake District is a hugely popular area that attracts millions of visitors every year. And we know that tourism has a massive impact on the Cumbrian economy, it has a positive and negative impact. So I thought we'd start with the positives and what are the main benefits of tourism to the Lake District?
I think, first of all, can I just say, Mark, congratulations. And every time I speak to you, you inspire. You are so positive, and your passion and your love for the county and for the walking inspires everybody else as well. So I'll certainly be picking up the guides, and thank you for them as well, and helping me to find my way through. The positives are vast, aren't they? We're a rural county, and like somewhere like Cornwall will probably be similar. Where would we be as a county in terms of our economy if it wasn't for the tourism industry? So we're hugely grateful for the fact that so many people do want to come and spend time here, and spend money here. And I think what's really interesting about the makeup of Cumbria's tourism industry is we're not made up of big multinational companies. These are often family businesses. It's a real opportunity for people, for start-up businesses or people to retire into tourism business. One of the things that I also think that we sometimes overlook as a community is how lucky we are to live and work in a place that has these amazing mountains and lakes, landscape, but also has all of the added benefits that come with a popular, the fantastic places to eat and drink. Did you know that we've got more Michelin stars than anywhere north of London? Not that we can all afford to eat in them, of course, but we can aspire. But brilliant places to eat and drink. We've got fantastic culture, fantastic heritage, and we've got every type of place to suit every pocket. And of course, we support 65,000 jobs, and they are jobs for people of every age, for women, for men. Great opportunities for young people to get work experience and get onto the career ladder as well. And then the other benefits that we sometimes overlook as well is that we then end up with people who've chosen to come and live here, which help our local shops, our local schools, our local pubs, all to succeed. So I think, and actually I could go on, because I think about the farming industry and the opportunities, the changes that are happening in the farming industry and the opportunities that tourism provides for diversification, which in turn helps to maintain some of that landscape. So the positives are vast, and that's sort of talking about it from an inward perspective. From the visitor perspective, we all know from spending time in the county and on Mark's Fells how good that makes us feel. You know, that the stress that drops away, the health and the well-being associated with being in a landscape like that. And we're a fantastically welcoming county as well, and we give those people a wonderful experience and memories that live on, and hopefully just push them through that next period until they're able to visit again.
And I think that's what we're all, you know, we all love the county and the Lake District so much, and we're so grateful for all of the people that do come and visit and support that. And I think because we recognise how stunning and amazing Cumbria and the Lake District is, and that's why we're all quite keen on, you know, making it sustainable and looking after that environment. So what is the biggest tourist related sustainability challenge that is facing Cumbria at the moment?
At the moment is the sort of key part, isn't it? What I would have said to you probably before the last year would have been probably around public transport and trying to encourage as many people as possible to use public transport. And Cumbria Tourism was involved in a fantastic project at the National Park and other partners called Go Lakes Travel some years ago, a government-funded project, which was really successful in terms of moving people onto public transport, sustainable means of transport, whether that be boat, bike, you know, foot, rail, as well as buses, horses, even I think even segways these days, and that has always been something that we've wanted to not just maintain but grow the number of people that actually think having a sustainable journey through the county is part of the experience of being on holiday and ditching the car. Clearly, that's become nigh on impossible. Not quite, but much more challenging because of the government directive through COVID. Interestingly, Stagecoach reported some pretty healthy figures on their through the lakes routes during the summer because they were able to provide really COVID-safe distancing and experiences. So it is interesting that there is still that appetite for it, and we know that Windermere Lake Cruises and the Ullswater Steamers, etc., also offer lots of cross-lake journeys and letting people get from one place to the other. I guess, you know, the challenge that everybody's been talking about last summer and likely to come again this summer is the impact of lockdown and what that's meant in terms of our inability to get out and about and to just, I suppose, get away from our own localities. And if you're lucky, like we are, to live in a lovely locality, we still had that wonderful opportunity to get that health and wellbeing kick. But if you are somebody that's living in a city, in a more built-up area, how much more must you need that opportunity to get to a place like ours? And of course, because Scotland and Wales had slightly different restrictions that were going on at slightly different times because of the limitations around international travel. All of those things combined with this short window of opportunity created last summer exceptional demand. And then to sort of go back on that, the businesses themselves were restricted in terms of their own capacities and how many people they could take. Public service provision was restricted. So it was a really challenging year. And I think that under the circumstances, the agencies, if I can call them that, so that would be, you know, ourselves, the local authorities, county council, Lake District National Park, police, Mountain Rescue, National Trust, all those sorts of organisations work really well under very extreme circumstances to try to mitigate as much as possible. Now, that said, we've learned a lot from last year's experience, and the good news is that we've been able to plan much more in advance in order to do even more work to try and mitigate that. I'll just cut back 1 second to say that when we did a visitor survey in September to ask what visitors thought of the place, 99% said they felt that they'd had a fantastic experience, that they had been very much welcomed. A lot of those visitors were new visitors with an appetite and desire to come back. So some of those are people that might have been as kids, but as adults and with their children, they, chosen to go off somewhere else. And they last year gave them the opportunity to come back and realise, actually, we've been missing something. But obviously that creates challenge and, for the individual businesses and for us as a county in terms of how we manage that. But we've got a plan.
So because I think this summer we're probably going to experience something similar, because looking at the current roadmap, we're not sure if we'll be able to travel abroad, but I imagine a lot of people will be coming, to the Lake District and holidaying within the UK. And that would be brilliant, as you're saying, for local businesses to get them, up and going again after what's been a really tough, I don't know, is it a year or is it longer than that now?
Coming up to a year now, yeah.
Lose track, don't you? And so what can visitors themselves do to be more environmentally friendly or sustainable, given that there's going to be, I imagine, huge volumes of people?
Yeah. I think the first thing that I would say is I think the vast majority of people are, people who wish to come and be responsible visitors and to contribute to the economy and to support, not to offend communities in any way. And so I think the vast majority of people do that. But all of us have opportunities to take responsibility. I think that, the whole environmental priorities are higher up the agenda. And the more that any of us can do to reduce our carbon footprint, clearly better. And a lot of our messaging and working is about that. It will depend to a certain extent from a public transport perspective what the government guidance is at that point. But it looks as though from the roadmap that will ease as we come towards the peak season for tourism. I think it's, listen to Mark, even Mark saying that when he was, on a fell, he nearly ran into trouble there. Someone as experienced as you can run into trouble there, then I think it is the responsibility of all of us to make sure that we are not trying to do something beyond our capabilities, whether that's on the water, whether it's up a mountain, that we're taking the right advice, got the right equipment. And like Mark said, knowing when it's time to say, actually, today's not the right day to do that. We are part of a programme called Adventure Smart, which is started in Wales, actually. And it's all about advising and supporting visitors to think smart before they attempt to do something that perhaps they've never done before in the pouring rain or a thunderstorm, as Mark describes. I think one of the other things that I think that visitors can do is give. So there's a fantastic charity in the Lake District called the Lake District Foundation, which is all about taking funding, if you like, from the visitor and putting that back into projects like Fix the Fells or wildlife projects. And I think that's really important, and we're a key partner and supporter of that. And the businesses themselves, so many of our businesses are, they're local people and they live in the communities, and their staff live and work in the communities, and they're very mindful of wanting to be a responsible business within that community. So you'll see many businesses these days that have very strong green credentials. If you look at somewhere like the Quiet Site at Ullswater, all the projects that they've done to make themselves an incredibly successful sustainable tourism business. And actually part of their USP now is because they are like that. And there's much more of that that's going to follow now because actually the consumer's demanding it, but also the government's driving that as well. So I think there's, and then there's so much here, isn't there? The other thing for me is that you don't have to visit in the summer. We are an all year round destination. And actually, we are a county, Cumbria is a huge county. And as Mark's just said, it doesn't take too much effort to get away from the crowds. You can be in Windermere and find places where you won't see a soul, even on an August bank holiday. So I think it's just being mindful of that, about being respectful to the communities whom you're staying within. I think it's about leaving no trace when you are here, and giving something back, perhaps through the Lake District Foundation, so that we can, continue to maintain this stunning environment for everybody's benefit.
Absolutely, yeah. I had a follow-up question about where you're most looking forward to going, but I might ask you that at the end once we've got through some questions from the audience. But yeah, I think everything you've said, Jill, is absolutely fantastic, and yeah, I think it'll be so nice when people can come and visit again, and it'll feel quite vibrant, and yeah.
I think, just going back to your point though about the summer, I think the big message, and this isn't just in this county, it's it's countrywide, is know before you go, plan ahead, book ahead. If you want to come and camp in the county, make sure you've got a pitch before you come. Make sure that you've got that you've booked what it is you want to do, attractions wise as well. And there's loads and loads of ideas on lakedistrict.com of itineraries and things to do, things that you can book right across the county. From the coast. We've coined it the 2021 Cumbrian Year of the Coast. There's obviously Hadrian's Wall. There's the lovely Pennine Stretch, Morecambe Bay, as well as the Central Lake District. So it's really think and plan out your journey and book before you come, to be guaranteed a fantastic experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I'm really looking forward to going to the Cumbrian coast at some point soon, over to kind of Ravenglass, that sort of area. Yeah, haven't been there in ages and I'm really looking forward to it. So if we move to some questions from the audience, we've got quite a few, and that's brilliant. So first one for you, Mark. When describing the routes, do you advise readers who might suffer from heights as to whether there are exposed sections or steep drop-offs to avoid?
Well, indeed I do. And I had a communication this morning from somebody from London about that very thing. And it's something I was able to reassure him that he wanted to go up Ruthwaite Cove, would you believe? He wanted to see Hard Tarn because I'd made a mention. And he thought, I want to go and see that. But I said, well, don't go up Nethermost Pike and don't go up onto Dollywagon Pike, but you can go and see Hard Tarn. And it says so in the guide, in the Patterdale guide, how steep and uncomfortable some of the ground is, and vulnerable. One of the issues that people tend to have is that feel that they have to go up certain routes. Striding Edge, wow, it's actually a mountaineer's route, but you can go up Glenridding and up onto Whiteside and sweep over the top, come down to Nethermost Dollywagon and come down to Grisdale Tarn, and go over ground that is very secure and not, very unchallenging. So the guidebook makes a stress of what kind of terrain you're going over. And it's something that I'm constantly alive to and want to make certain the guidebooks respond to that. And that's part of, that question is part of the process going forward with this series, that as soon as we find out that people are having problems or are not really reading what we've said correctly, we'll modify the text to make that they do.
This is potentially a question that both of you might have an opinion on. What is the best pub in Borrowdale? Any thoughts?
Well, I've got quite a number of Cumbria Tourism members in Borrowdale, so I better not actually pick anyone out. But genuinely, it's a beautiful area for food and brilliant area for a whole range of food and drink. And there are lots of licensed cafes as well as pubs. places where you can be with the family as well. So, you know, well, I would say get on Lake District, visit lakedistrict.com, and you can see all the reviews and recommendations there. But you are quite spoilt for choice, aren't you, Mark?
Oh, you are, and you're in the invidious position. You can't actually quantify one because you are responsible for all of the businesses, quite correctly.
You can.
In the Langdale Hotel, no trouble at all. or I can say the what is it now? Skullfell Hotel in Rosthwaite, which I went to on my honeymoon. Now that is going back 45 years, and it's still a very good pub. So Borrowdale has long been valued for its welcome and service to the visitor. Borrowdale Hotel near Shepherd's Crag, very good hotel. But the pubs, of which the Skullfell Hotel and the Langdale Hotel in Stonethwaite are ideally set for anybody heading up into the wild country. So I recommend those.
That's brilliant. There's a question, and I'm not sure whether actually you'll be able to answer this, Mark, because I think it might be an addition just for the new books. But have you seen any of the paths going from green to red as a result of your books, as would happen that happened with Wainwright apparently, in terms of the terrain? But I think they're a new addition just for this series, aren't they?
Yeah, we'll know more in 10 years' time, perhaps, if our guidebooks actually do take over and become the standard references. There'll be a lot of cause we will have to be on our toes to respond to fixed fells and so forth. And if we see that we are responsible for any exacerbation of the paths, then we will change some orientations to respond better. So as yet, we're too young in the tooth, as it were, to have that impact. I don't want to have an impact, quite frankly, but the fells we are just about at the cusp of probably 5 years of intensive fell walking interest in the Lake District, which you know, it's been popular for years, but suddenly people won't be able to go abroad. They won't go to the Alps in the same number, but they will come to the Lake District. And so it's going to be right at this sharp end. And this series will have to take the brunt of criticism.
I think that health and well-being issue is, people are so much more mindful now, aren't they, of their own health and their well-being. And when you're producing a guide as helpful and user-friendly and accessible as this, then actually what we're doing here is we're making it possible for more people to explore and experience safely. So, you know, that's fantastic. That's great. But as you say, we have to be mindful and keep our eye on it.
You have to have broad shoulders and be aware that you've got to be able to respond. And like your spirit of wanting to disperse people, that's what the series will do within the confines of the national park. The wider Cumbria equally needs to be respected. The wider Cumbria has wonderful places, but within the context of this, we do spread the load.
And I think I sort of wanted to ask, well, where would you suggest people go for a quieter experience? But that's almost not the question to ask, is it? Because as soon as you say, oh, go to this place, and everyone goes there, then you've just moved the problem elsewhere, haven't you?
Yeah, stay mum, I'd say. Say a word about Breatherdale or Swindale. Absolutely nothing about them. They just ignore Wetslevel. Keep well clear.
But I suppose what you might say is, you know, rather than just going to Keswick or Ambleside, because those are the places you've heard of, you know, maybe explore, I don't know, smaller places, or, you know, not the obvious ones.
Well, because you have the Western Lakes, because it's more challenging to get to, there's always going to be scope for visitors in Esdale the wild upper reaches of Eskdale. I think everybody who loves the Lake District for wild fells adores Upper Eskdale, and it's like being in the Highlands of Scotland. And some places are like that. Mardale, ahead of Haweswater, you're right into the glens of Scotland there. I know Wainwright loved it up there. I think people who are connoisseurs of the fells know those places, and they'll find them in our guides. If they buy all 8, scrutinize them, they'll find these magical places, and they're invariably not where the honeypots are.
Interestingly, I think what happens as well, and we measure economic impact of the visitor economy every year, and year on year we've seen growth in areas, like the West Coast, Hadrian's Wall, that kind of area, those kind of areas, Morecambe Bay. They've all seen good incremental growth. What happened last year is because we had such a significant portion of people who were coming for the first time or first time as adults, they go to the places that they've heard of, that they know, because they feel safe and secure that they're going to get a good experience. But then what they say to us is, actually, we've done that, we've had a brilliant time, we want to do that again, but actually we want to explore something else as well. So often when we talk to repeat visitors, they've either mixed and matched with known and new, or they've gone for just new. And actually, that's fantastic. That's fantastic for economies and communities right across the county.
We've got a question for you, Gill, about, and I don't know if this fits under the remit of Cumbria Tourism or not, but what are you doing, or what can you do to support electric charging infrastructure in new car parks and hospitality premises to support this fundamental change for the better?
Yeah. No, it's a really important question, and it's not something that we're directly able to do, but we are working with a whole range. So we're working with local government. There's some funding that the National Park have managed to secure. North West Electricity as well have also got some funding. We're working with Charge My Street. So there's a sustainable transport framework for the national park, actually, but beyond that, the wider county is working on that. And there is demand that's coming from the industry, from the hotels and the businesses that you're talking about, because that's what their customers require as well. So I think that what you're going to see in quite a short space of time is a real transformation in terms of electric vehicle charging points, and that's terrific, because that all helps to reduce that carbon footprint and support visitor demand, I guess.
And I suppose that helps with, if public transport can't quite be as, as widespread and helpful as perhaps we want it to be because of ongoing restrictions or whatever, then, introducing electric charging points and all that is so vital, isn't it? As a second.
It is. But in the background, whilst there are these restrictions on public transport, I've been really encouraged through this COVID episode to see how public transport providers are off their own bats, working more collaboratively. So you're seeing rail and bus organisation, Stagecoach, wanting to work together so that, someone arriving at Penrith Station, there's then a bus that will collect them at the appropriate time and take them to the places where the visitors want to go to, and take them back again as well. So I think that we're going to see COVID's created everything that's bad, but it's also forced us all to think differently, think outside the box, and work more collaboratively than ever before. So there will be some good that will come out of this, and we can build back better.
Absolutely, and I think it'll be really exciting when people can come back and explore the Lake District again. I think, that would just be wonderful. Maybe a final audience question for Mark. What has been your personal favourite guide to write this time round, and does that differ from your favourite guide in the old versions? P.S. Loving the books, by the way.
Well, it's no. I love all the fells, but I love the Langdale pikes. I love wandering over them. It's very difficult to say which I love the best, because there's so many parts of the Lake District. If you're like me and a complete geek of the fells, you find even the most innocuous fell a joy to be on. It's because for me it's all about being in the fells, not a particular fell, which is, it's like an angler who likes to go fishing. You know, you just got to be out there fishing. So which did I like the best? Well, as I hinted, I love Wild Upper Eskdale, so that is magical. I love the coombs at the head of Grisdale from Patterdale, Nethermost Cove, Bruthick Cove and Cock Cove. Oh, magic up there. And Deepdale. Oh, I do love Deepdale. That under Fairfield there. Those are places I'm longing to get back to. So in effect, the guidebooks are so universal in their coverage. All I think about are those magical places I'm longing, those mountain sanctuaries that I love so much to go back to. And I want to enthuse more fell anglers.
And Gill, where are you most looking forward to going when we can all get out and about and travel freely in the Lake District again? Where are you most looking forward to going?
Well, I had a plan last October half term when I had a week off to really explore the coast, and there were so many days out that we had planned, and obviously that couldn't happen. So I'm going to be, it's the year of the coast, so I'm going to be heading over to Cumbria year of the coast. So I'm going to be heading over to the coast. However, I've got a dog now, and me and my husband and the dog, the kids are getting a bit too grown up and don't want to come with us. So me and my husband and the dog are just looking forward to getting out and walking on the fell. So I'll be picking up your books, Mark, and really I'll be bagging a Mark fell.
Yes, a benchmark fell. Yes, that's it.
A few, actually, not one. A few.
A few. It's very important to remember that they don't belong to anybody. They belong to you, whoever you are. Marvelous.
Well, you'll have to let us know how you get on, Gill, how many of them you tick off, or whether you're just going for a nice day out.
I think there's a blog in there somewhere, isn't there?
I think
so. You can tick off all the bogs. That's the answer. That's
yeah, that'd be a new series, wouldn't it? The bogs of the Lake District.
Terry Marsh contacted me not long ago, today, and he was saying, they won't be climbing the Wainwrights, they'll be climbing the Richards. I said, no, but they will be going down in the wet hollows and claiming the marshes.
And Gill, maybe as a final thing, if people have never been to Cumbria and the Lake District before, what would you say to them to kind of welcome them here this summer, or in the winter even? You know, it's, as you said, it's around. That's a really good point.
Yeah, I think that the visitors said it themselves. We're a wonderful, welcoming county. We have so much to explore. Whether that's the landscape, the culture, the heritage, the food, the drink. We can provide fantastic itineraries and experiences. Doesn't matter what age you are, in Cumbria, does it? And it doesn't matter, what your purse is. So I would just say, take a look. If you haven't been before, take a look at us and give us a try. And somebody said to me earlier on today that once you've been to Cumbria, it's in your heart and you keep coming. But it isn't all year round, and it's different every season. So, maybe think about coming in one of the shoulder months and having maybe a bit quieter time and having more of the environment to yourself.
Just have a good cag is the answer. There's no such thing as bad weather, just inappropriate clothing.
We've got some fantastic shops to equip you with a wonderful, colourful array of anoraks. Yeah. Do we call them anoraks still? I don't know.
Well, I'm an anorak myself, so I should know.
I think that's I think that's a lovely place to leave it actually tonight. So thank you both so much for joining me to celebrate the Fellrangers and to talk about sustainable walking in the Lake District. And I know that all three of us are looking forward to getting out there again and welcoming people back this summer when they can come. So
thank you, Amy, and thank you, Jill.
Thank you, and congratulations again on a fantastic series. Enjoy them, everybody.
Yep, and all power to your arm, Jill.
So, yes, thank you so much for joining us, everyone. And here's all the information for our future events and how you can keep up to date with Cicerone. You can visit the website, you can sign up to our newsletter, you can follow us on social media, you can join our Facebook group, and we'll be back in a month's time for another event, and really looking forward to seeing you there. And thanks again to Mark and to Jill for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure.